They knew. The media knew, the Fed knew, the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. knew, and they said nothing. While President Donald J. Trump was out front celebrating America's explosive growth, they were sitting on a landmine of hidden data that could have changed everything. One day. That's all it would have taken for the Federal Reserve to cut rates, but they didn't, because the truth was held back up until it was too late. So now here's the twist that nobody saw coming. The so-called terrible jobs report, it wasn't a collapse. It was a purge of nearly 500,000 illegal workers from the U.S. labor force and the rise of 383,000 new American jobs. You heard that right, guys. This wasn't economic failure. It was Trump's America First strategy in full force. And even Trump didn't fully realize it up until it was too late. Now, tonight, you're going to hear from a steel industry CEO who just shattered the media's lies. You're also going to find out why President Trump fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and why even CNN is being forced to quietly admit that Trump's immigration and trade policies are actually working. Now, this wasn't just a setup of media bias. It was a story beyond lies, and it was just a complete setup. Now, once you see the full picture, you're never going to trust the headlines again. So I want to go ahead and break it all down, starting with the hidden numbers and the explosive truth that the media didn't want you to find. If you appreciate the news updates, hit the like button and subscribe. So let's rewind back to August 2nd, 2025. The headlines, they were brutal. Trump's economy stalls, job growth collapses, markets react to disastrous numbers. It was not good, right? So this is what the media was screaming after the Bureau of Labor Statistics released the July jobs reports numbers, claiming that only 73,000 jobs were created, which was far short of their 100,000 plus estimate. Now, the narrative was simple. Trump's economic miracle is over. And what did President Trump do? He fired the head of the BLS, Erica McIntoer, right on the spot, called the numbers rigged, accused her of playing the same games that she played back in 2020, right before the election, reporting beautiful numbers for Biden and Kamala, and then quietly correcting them after the ballots were in. But this time, the stakes were even higher, because this wasn't just about jobs. It was about interest rates, markets, credibility, and the Fed. But what if Trump wasn't overreacting? What if the data really was manipulated, or worse, intentionally timed to block something huge? Because just one day before that BLS report dropped, the Federal Reserve announced that it would not cut interest rates. They said that the economy was just too hot. It was too strong. Pointed to the 3% GDP growth in Q2 as proof that no rate relief was needed. But here's where things get a little suspicious, because literally 24 hours later, the Labor Department revised May and June's job numbers down by a whopping 258,000 jobs. Now let that sink in, guys. The Fed made a policy change, one that affects every mortgage, every car loan, every business expansion in America, every credit card interest rate, based on numbers that were not even real. So here's the kicker. Had they known the revisions just one day earlier, every analyst agrees the Fed likely would have cut rates. Now, that's not a minor oversight. That is economic sabotage, because it's not just about the numbers. It is about the message, the markets, the momentum. That rate cut, it would have ignited hiring, strengthened manufacturing, boosted consumer confidence, and validated everything that Trump's administration had been doing. So instead, the fake numbers handed the media an excuse to attack. The Fed stood down, and Trump was left holding a flaming bag of statistical garbage. But here's where it flips, because while the media was focused on the top line number, they completely ignored the real story inside that report. Now, of course, I'm gonna go ahead and break down the shocking truth that nearly 500,000 foreign-born workers were purged from the workforce in July, and over 383,000 American citizens stepped into those jobs. Now, the question is, was it cruel, or was it the clearest sign yet that Trump's America First labor strategy is actually working? Now, Medicare, it can feel like a maze with no way out. This is why I teamed up with Chapter to make sure that nobody has to face this level of confusion alone. Paulette Diener, she said, Chapter fixed my son's Medicare nightmare over a year of stress. After a year of stress, guys, what a blessing. And Catherine Garcia, she shared, they were kind, compassionate, and they got me a plan where I owe nothing out of pocket. This is what real help looks like. I mean, you don't need to fight the system alone. All you need is someone who's smart and on your team and kind. And that's what Chapter is. So you should see a phone number on your screen down below. Give them a call right now. See how much you can save. Phone number is 909-563-8279, or go to their website at askchapter.org/Ron. Let a real trusted expert guide you for free, step by step. And of course, if you have older parents, older than 65, call for them, because they probably don't even know. So let's talk about the the real bombshell inside this so-called disastrous jobs report, shall we? The one nearly every major outlet ignored or intentionally buried. Yeah, let's talk about that one, shall we? Because while the headlines screamed about only 73,000 jobs being created, they didn't mention this: the 383,000 American citizens that found jobs last month. At the exact same time, 467,000 foreign-born workers lost theirs. Now think about that. Nearly 500,000 jobs shifted, not lost, not eliminated, shifted from illegal and foreign labor to American workers. This was not a collapse. It was far from a collapse. It was a rebalancing. So a structural shift that Trump promised from the day that he came down that escalator. But you're not going to hear that from MSNBC. No, that's why you have independent news outlets like this one. And this is why I love bringing you the truth, because they're not going to do it. They're not going to talk about this, because admitting it means admitting that his immigration enforcement's working. And it's also admitting that the jobs are coming back, not because of some random economic wind, or it's for no other reason than good policy. So here's a reason that construction jobs were hit the hardest for foreign-born workers. Those are the very industries that have been propped up for years by illegal labor. And now American tradesmen are finally stepping into those roles, many with families to feed, no college degree, and no lobbyists backing them in Washington. So let's just go ahead and ask the hard question here now. Was this some cruel purge, as the activist press claims, or was this more of a long-term overdue correction that put American workers first without apology? And I don't think we need to guess here. The numbers speak for themselves. And I'm not done yet, because one man saw this coming before it even hit the news cycle. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't some pundit. He was a steel company CEO. So his name is Drew Greenblatt, the CEO of Marlin Steel. And what he revealed recently should have been front page news, but instead it was quietly ignored. So Greenblatt says that the media is completely missing what's really going on. According to him, President Trump's trade policies are triggering a global shift. Talking foreign manufacturers from Germany, Japan, and the UK are pulling out of their home countries, and they're building factories right here in the United States of America. Why? Because Trump hit them with reciprocal tariffs. And now, if they want to be able to access the American consumer, they can't just dump cheap goods on our shores. They have to invest here. They have to build here. They have to hire here. And they are. Marlin Steel is hiring. Their factories are in Indiana, Michigan, and Baltimore. Those are expanding, and they're buying equipment. They're training new workers. They're training existing workers, and they're gearing up for what Greenblatt calls a full-blown reindustrialization of America. And it's not just them either. Every new foreign factory means more business for box companies, pallet suppliers, local parts manufacturers, and of course, American welders, machinists, and drivers. So it's the supply chain revival the elites said would never happen. Go figure, right? And yet, at the same time, while all of this is unfolding right under our noses, the media is just way too busy obsessing over the fake top-line number on a single BLS sheet. Unbelievable. So instead of celebrating the return of 80,000 jobs with benefits, healthcare, and retirement plans, they're busy trying to prop up this fake narrative that Trump is somehow failing. But if this is failure, why are the global manufacturers suddenly rushing to build in America for the first time in decades, right? You got to ask yourself, why are they doing that? Well, guys, we're just getting started, because we're going to connect the dots here between this industrial shift and the labor data that the BLS quietly revised, and more importantly, what it all means for the future of the American workforce. Now, you want to know why factory jobs are now being called the new gold rush? It's happening right in front of us, guys. It's not in theory, not in campaign slogans, in real towns with real jobs for real people. What we're watching today, what we're watching is something historic, okay? A shift in the labor market that nobody in the corporate media wants to acknowledge. But we're going to acknowledge it today, shall we? Okay, so July's numbers, they showed it clearly. While foreign-born labor, legal and illegal, was shrinking fast, American job growth exploded. Where? In construction, in manufacturing, in logistics. Yeah, the very jobs that the so-called experts told us were never coming back. Yeah, they mocked Trump when he said that he would be bringing back factory jobs. They called it fantasy when he talked about the steel towns being revived. And yet now factory owners are hiring aggressively, offering salaries that started 80 grand. I'm talking $80,000 a year, full health care and retirement plans. These aren't gig economy scrap jobs. These are legacy jobs, guys, the kind that once built the American middle class. What's left of it anyway. Well, hopefully we can build it back. And so it's not just about wages. It's also about dignity. It's about stability. It's about roots. Ask yourself, why isn't this the lead story on every major network? It's because the longer this labor transformation goes unreported, the easier it is for them to keep feeding the lie that the American economy is falling apart under Trump. That's why. Oh, but what the numbers show and what's working, what working families are feeling, this is the exact opposite of what they're trying to lie to us about, okay? The real question isn't, can Trump bring jobs back? The real question is, why are they working so hard to hide that he already did, okay? But here's where things get even uglier, because if you think this is just about economic misreporting, think again. Let's look at the pattern, okay? Now, first, what if I told you the media distracts you with celebrity nonsense and Jack Smith's latest witch hunt? There's a real revolution that's quietly happening. It's happening quietly in the heartland of America, one that could change the lives of over 20 million families. And it could ultimately flip the script on a broken healthcare system that's left kids and adults alike feeling helpless. Well, what if I told you that this breakthrough isn't coming from big pharma's usual suspects or even the corrupt coastal elites, but from a Kansas City biotech company fighting to do what President Donald J. Trump always promised: put America first and return power to the people. Today, we're digging into a story that the media will not touch. This is about a company named Singulate, and they're trading on the NASDAQ under ticker symbol CING. They are building something that could shake up one of the most frustrating and overlooked challenges in American medicine: ADHD. And get this, they just got a $4.3 million green light from the FDA, and it could be weeks away from full approval. Now, you'll want to see exactly why this is important, especially if you're fed up with the bloated institutions, the broken systems, and solutions that never come. So Singulate Incorporated, it's not your typical pharmaceutical company. No, they're using a patented technology called precision timed release, or PTR. They're doing this to solve a problem that millions of Americans deal with every single day: medications that wear off too soon, don't work long enough, or require multiple doses just to stay focused and functional. Their goal: create a once-a-day tablet that gives rapid onset, all-day coverage, and a final dose when other drugs wear off. No more crashing mid-afternoon, no more lost productivity, no more guesswork. And just like President Trump's America First policies, Singulate, they're building this right here in the United States, right here in the good old US of A. Not outsourcing it to China, not bending to big pharma's games, but they're engineering a solution for working families, for students, for veterans, and even for everyday Americans. Now, the company's lead product is CTX 1301, also known as CTX 1301. This isn't a brand new compound. In fact, it's a next generation delivery of a proven medication. This is the dexmethylphenidate, and it's used to treat ADHD. Now, what sets this particular product apart is how precisely the medication is released. So instead of the typical 2 or maybe 3 hours of alertness and focus, CTX 1301 delivers 3 targeted releases throughout the day: morning, midday, and late afternoon. And so in a world where Donald J. Trump taught us to expect maximum performance, efficiency, and results, this drug is doing just that for a market that's been stuck in neutral for decades. It's built for children who can't get through school, for parents who've been let down by the system, and for adults balancing work, kids, and the chaos who can't afford to crash at 2 p.m. So last month, Singulate received a $4.3 million fee waiver from the FDA, a very powerful signal that this company meets the small business and innovation standards to qualify for fast tracking. And just days ago, they released jaw-dropping phase 3 data in children aged 6 through 17. Across all tested doses, CTX 1301 beat the placebo with statistical significance in only 5 weeks. The highest dose had an effective size of 1.185. That is a massive result in this space. Even more impressive, they hit these numbers with less than 1/3 of the planned patients, which means that the drug is working stronger than expected. The safety profile, steady and consistent across 8 clinical trials. Plus, the drug works with or without food. This is a big deal for parents managing some chaotic mornings, if you know what I mean. So with over 20 million ADHD diagnoses in America, 12 million adults, and 8 million children, it's clear to see that the market for a drug like CTX 1301 is massive. And here's the kicker: the adult ADHD market is growing faster than the pediatric side. This means even more demand for long-lasting, easy-to-use treatments. Singulate plans to launch 8 dosage strengths, 6 of which will be pediatric-friendly, giving providers and families options, not some one-size-fits-none prescriptions. So this isn't just about medicine. This is about restoring focus, restoring productivity, and giving American families real tools. This is something that that we know President Trump's administration always fought for. And now with NDA submission imminent, Singulate is closer than ever to bringing this to market. So whether you're an investor looking for what's next in US biotech, a parent looking for a better answer, or just someone who believes in American ingenuity over bloated bureaucracy, Singulate, ticker symbol CING, might be a name to watch. Their approach is bold, their science is solid, and their timing couldn't be better. Now, as always, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not investment advice. You should always do your own research, talk to a licensed professional, and decide what's right for you. But if you're betting on Trump's vision of an America that builds again, innovates again, and wins again, this company might be on that path. Now, this is not the first time that this has happened. In fact, this looks a lot like 2020 all over again. Now, you may remember just days before the presidential election, the BLS released suspiciously strong job numbers that helped prop up the Biden-Harris campaign. Then, conveniently, those numbers were revised downward after the election. Wonder why they did that, revealing that the initial data had been grossly inflated. And now, in 2025, it's the exact same pattern in reverse. The Fed decides not to cut interest rates based on supposedly strong job data. Then, within 24 hours, the BLS quietly revises previous months down by a combined 258,000 jobs. Do you really believe that timing is accidental? Is anybody going for that? Because that one-day delay robbed the Trump economy of a rate cut that it had earned. It denied American workers the momentum that rate relief would have triggered. And it gave the media the perfect excuse to unleash another round of doom and gloom headlines. So let's just go ahead and call it what it is: a pattern of weaponized incompetence. And of course, a coordinated effort to undermine public trust in the one president who's actually putting American workers first. And here's the real cruel irony of this whole story. While these institutions play games with the numbers and the timing, American families are out here living the consequences. Businesses hold off on hiring, mortgage rates stay high, consumer confidence stalls, all because the people who are supposed to tell the truth won't, or they won't until it's politically safe to do so. And so if they did it once and now they've done it again, what else are they hiding right now? So while the media was busy obsessing over the job collapse, something far more telling was happening in cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and Denver. ICE wasn't just raiding, they were enforcing long ignored laws. And sanctuary cities, they've become ground zero for what experts are calling the largest wave of self-deportations in modern American history. Now, in California alone, estimates suggest tens of thousands of undocumented residents quietly packed up and left. Not because they were rounded up, because the reason why is because the policy climate changed overnight. That is why. And so, if you want to know how serious the shift is, just ask the emergency room nurse in Los Angeles who went viral last week. She worked a 12-hour shift in one of LA County's busiest public hospitals and reported something that she'd never seen before: an empty waiting room. Not because of a holiday, not because people suddenly got healthy, but because many undocumented immigrants, fearful of ICE presence and policy enforcement, they're no longer showing up for care. So in a lot of cases, they're no longer even in the city at all. Some are calling it a humanitarian crisis. Others are saying that, hey, this is a direct result of promises kept by the Trump administration. Now, this is not rhetoric. This is a measurable change. The burden on public schools, housing, ERs, and social programs shrinking. The local job market opening up for the first time in decades, especially in the sectors like hospitality, construction, and healthcare support. Folks, we're watching a structural rebalancing of the American city. And whether you applaud it or you criticize it, one thing is undeniable: it is happening. And the press is terrified to cover it. But let's go ahead and bring it on home, because everything we talked about, from the rigged jobs report to the revised numbers to the immigration shifts and the trade wins, it all leads us to one undeniable truth. Okay, Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States, and yet the institutions that should be helping him serve the American people, the ones tasked with reporting data and enforcing accountability, they seem to operate on a different agenda. When he acts, they delay. When he wins, they distract. When he tells the truth, they frame it as chaos. But what happens when the facts catch up, right? We now know the jobs report, the July jobs report, was never a collapse. It was a correction. It was a shift, a fulfillment of Trump's promise to prioritize American labor. We now know the Fed made a major policy decision on faulty data, and that the real numbers, they were sitting right there. They were hidden just hours away. And so we know that the foreign manufacturers are moving their operations to the United States because of tariffs that Trump was mocked for. We now know that millions in public services, they're being relieved, not by coincidence, but by design, the direct result of serious immigration enforcement. And maybe most importantly, we now know that the media and the bureaucratic class, they will do everything in their power to keep you from seeing any of the truth. But this time, it didn't work. This time, their narrative collapsed under the weight of its own denial. And this time, Trump didn't just weather the storm, he exposed it. So now you've seen the evidence. You've seen the data. You've seen what the media refused to show you. Let me ask you this. Do you believe the Trump administration is being sabotaged by the very institutions tasked with reporting the truth, or are these just coincidences that we are supposed to ignore? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And if you want more content that breaks through the noise and actually tells you what's really happening, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell one friend today what the media refused to admit. By the way, YouTube thinks you're going to absolutely love the next video that just popped up on your screen. Go ahead and check that video out right now, click it, and I will see you on the other side.